Hello, hello. Welcome, Marta, to the new episode of Design Systems Guide podcast. And I have to share a funny story. I mean, not even a story, but your name always reminds me of Marie Kondo. So it's a cool analogy, I think, also with design systems, because in a way you're also Marie Kondo, but, cleaning components and tokens, etc. But since you're not Marie, I would like you to introduce yourself so our listeners can also find out more about you, because just recently you changed jobs. So yeah, I will leave you.
That was super funny because in the first talk that I make it, I just named me as a Mary Kondo, so people just thinking Mary Kondo, like Marta Conde, is something like similar. And yeah, I love it. I love it the comparison because she just organized everything, and I organize things on a system at the same time. So yes, I'm Marta. I'm from a small island that is called Mallorca in Spain, but I moved to Madrid like 7 years ago. And right now I'm working on SoSafe, that is a cybersecurity company as a design system. And at the same time, I'm a teacher into online schools. That's something that I really like it. I think it's come from my family because most of them are teachers. So that's one of the parts that I really like it. And I can apply at the same time on my work as a teacher, things that I am learning.
Yeah, that's really cool because I think you always get inspiration or new perspectives when you talk with students, and it also gives you this nudge that you don't stop learning.
Totally. This mindset of you learn like a lot of things every day and on the community, and then you don't know how to teach all that information. But then they just came with some questions, and then they organize your mind like, oh, okay, I need to just sharing in this way so everyone just understand better. So yeah, it's super good.
Yeah, so before you joined SoSafe, you worked at Celonis. And that
Yes.
Celonis was actually named one of the fastest growing companies in Europe and also most innovative. So you left the company where it was growing fast, it's still growing fast, and it has a lot of designers, but now you're working in a smaller company. And I would like to know if you can walk us through the design system you're currently involved with and maybe compare it with the previous one.
Totally. When I was started on Salonis, I think there was like a super good opportunity. When I just was on the interview, the person that interviewed just tell me like, Marta, you will start on a chaotic. There is no process, there is no design system, there's nothing. So you can create everything from scratch. And I love it, that mindset that you have like the freedom to create everything from scratch. So that was a super big project. We started like with 10 designers, only me and Matthias, that was my lead on Salonis. And then we just growing up like super fast, and right now there are like 40 or 15 designers, I'm not sure, but it's growing super hard. But the design system team still remaining like a small, like only two designers and three engineers. But that was enough to starting like to creating that project. And right now I'm the only design system. It's in a startup, it's smaller, and we have five designers. But that was like a super good approach because it's five designers, one researcher, one illustrator, and one in motion design. So we have five and three these roles. So that was like super different regarding how to structure the teams and all the things. But one good thing that it's right now that I have it on that company, it's really fast how I communicate with people. There is not that kind of process that I need to waiting for approval, and everything is like going on delay. That's true that when the company grows up, all that processes become like more harder to implement. If you want to implement something, you need to make like a lot of questions, reviewing a lot of things. And here it's there's no time because in a startup, so you need to think like completely different. You need to create a lot of MVPs, test them, talk with the people, and everything is super fast. And then on Salonis right now, everything goes slowly, but on a good approach. I mean, it's different. Like people work on different mindsets, and on Salonis, people are more seniority. So here there are more juniors. So the way I communicate with one team or the other team is completely different. I need to taking care which vocabulary I use, how I be transparency for all the processes, and yeah, there are like a lot of difference between one and another one, but both have their pros and cons. I think people are super scared to joining startups because they are feeling like they will get fired or something, and I just will get that space to just invite people that not to be scared, because all the companies have layoffs and all the stuff. So that's not a point to not didn't join like on a startup.
Yeah, but if you compare, let's say that we are now at Celonis and you were given this task to create a design system, what was the hardest thing? I mean, what was the first thing that you did there? And then also what helped you grow the design system?
Yeah, we have it like a project, I would say. They didn't work it with before with a design system, so they didn't like know it, which is the powerful tool that they have it to contact us. So we have between 3 and 6 months to give them a system. And before they are using like a sketch, so we make a migration. People didn't know how to use Figma on that time. We need to kind of rebrand the entire product because that was everything on black and white. There was not a structure. We converted on a digital product that was accessible. So there was like a lot of things popping up at the same time, and we have like a super short time. So we prioritize how to make like an MVP of the design system and get everyone involved on that changes, learning about how to prioritize things, because on the design system it's really hard. You wanted to make everything perfect on the minute one. So I just learned a lot about which are the things that will get impact, and people will give like the opportunity to trust the system and say, okay, in 6 months they are making that things, they just release entire product, people are happy because they know how to migrate between one tool and the other tool, and they see all the benefits to use a Figma instead of a sketch. And that was the hardest part, to make this on only 6 months. And right now the project that I have, it's completely different. They have a design system before, so I just need to continue that work and synchronize design with engineers. So the goals are completely different, but on both I always have the thing to make an MVP to share the value of the system. It's only thing that everyone don't thinking like, oh, you started, so just create components, documentation, and all the stuff. And that's not how it works. When you start on a company, you need to create value since the minute one and in a short time. So that's what I make it during these 3 months that I just joined the new company.
So in the first company, so Celonis, you were given 6 months. And in these 6 months, you had to show, okay, what does it mean to go from Sketch to Figma? And then also how to use the components, educate the designers. And on the other hand, was it also involving with the developers?
Totally, and construct an entire library, because everything that was on a sketch was not a library. Were like only components on files, but there was not a real UI kit that I can reuse it. So I made this kind of auditory of all the the components that they have it right now, and start creating from scratch on Figma. So there was like a lot of things popping up at the same time. That was really hard. That we worked like a lot of on that month. Then everything just released, and everyone was super happy on that changing. So yeah, that was like a super biggest challenge, and I learned a lot about how prioritize things, how don't care if the things are not perfectly laid out on a component. For example, I always have like a good presentation on pages, because I wanted that people just get in the library and say, okay, that's a component and that's the stuff. But I just learned to prioritize things and say, Marta, just create a component, then you will just make it a great layout and all that fancy things, but you need to deliver. Instead of starting to organize all the things. That was a phase only on delivering and supporting designers, and the second one was more organize everything that we have it on a good way to consume it. But the first one was only deliver super fast.
How did you approach then implementing design tokens?
That's a super good approach, because how they have it, that was with, just imagine that Celonis have like the entire system created by engineers. They didn't have these designers that just taking care about how to make things on the system. So we become with a big legacy, I will say. So that was one of the things that we didn't prioritize during the time that we have it to invest on the design system. So
during 6 months, you didn't do design tokens?
No, we just make it like components and synchronize, because they have a CCS style guide. So everything was made by engineers on their system, but they didn't reuse like a lot of tokens. So constructing all that system from scratch in that short time was like not something that we can own it. So what we make is just deliver all that components, synchronize visually. And then when we just taking care, it's like, okay, now that we are just having that year for adapt to a new system, that everything is rebranded and we change colors and all the stuff. Let's just be focused on tokens. So we created some kind of an MVP for the designers to consume all that tokens, but they were not synchronous with engineers. So on the second year, we just sit it down and try to align everything that we have it on the code side with a designer. But that was not on the minute one, because this take like a lot of time and we have a lot of legacy, so we just prioritize what caused like the most bigger impact.
So how did you then go back and implement all the changes in components? Because this is usually the hardest point also for all the teams that already have the design system, or maybe they just want to start fresh. How did you come up with design language that everyone understands?
Yeah, that was more on the design side, how they use it and consume it, all that token. So we try to document every decision, put like a description inside every token, display them, how to consume it. So it was more like investment on designers about how to use it. And then the second part was to get on sync with engineers, like for every component, and just sitting down and say, okay, let's just adapt that component with the tokens that we have it. And we use Supernova as a single source of truth. So we just get on sync and use this as a bridge between the code and the design. But that was more on the first time to teach designers how to consume that tokens. And one time that they understand them, then we can implement it on engineer. That's because the team that we have with from engineers was super small. And there was like 5 engineers, but just thinking that they are supporting other products and the design system at the same time. So we didn't have that kind of resources, 24 hours to create like a big project. So we are just super small and get these small impacts like shortly, like in a small pieces, I would say.
So you mentioned before that now you're doing all of this stuff alone in the new company. So what's the process here? I mean, it's a lot of work for one person, but also a lot of decisions to be made. What's the most important thing, you know? So what's your process there?
Here, the good thing that I have it is that my team is an engineer team. I'm not part of the design team, so that's the most like different system that I'm in, because my team is everything, it's front end. So all the meetings that I have it on the morning are with them, and the second meeting that I have it is with designers. So I can talk with them every day, like, hey, that was a concern from designers, how we can just resolve it in our system, how we can just change the thing. So the process is completely different. If you are working with engineers, for me literally it's super easy, because I know how speed how can organize, how can I prioritize things. So yeah, I'm super happy that right now I have this engineer time that working 24 hours with the design system. That was something that I didn't have it before. So the organization is really cool. We just prioritize like every week what we are going to do it in the entire week. So I just have like a couple of tickets regarding designers and all the things. So we just take a look on the roadmap and see what of that things can be impact easily or faster, and just grab something and say, okay, tomorrow we just sit down, take a look on that ticket together, see if there are concerns, how we can implement it, and then just take it. So I just review first, create my branch, see with engineers, and they then just going and implements. It's really easy if you have an engineers working with the design system 24 hours.
I agree. Do you also have to, I mean, did you already join the company with this design system in mind, or do you still have to sell it internally, you know, to get the not the funds because you're employed there, but to work with engineers, because sometimes the projects that engineers have or the KPIs have more priority, and design system is always seen as like, okay, this is just an expense.
No, totally. Before, when I, for example, started like Salonis, they didn't have that role before. So they didn't know how is like the mindset or how a design system work, how can be their impact. So that was more selling at the beginning, but they contract someone from a design system. So that's a really good starting point. You don't need like to sell all the time, but you need to sell it a little bit. And here it's, they have it before a design system. So the person that was working here before, make like a lot of things not like properly, I will say it. So they didn't like trust a lot on the paper of the design system, and this is normal. It's like a relationship. When you just trust someone and that person didn't achieve all that goals, at the end you just feel like a little bit insecure to meet someone. So this is kind of the same. I need to repair this kind of hurt that people regarding the design system. But it was really easy because everyone is super open. If you just make like small things better, then they can start trusting you. So I'm just selling every day, because at the end, when you are working on design system, you need to sell every day what you are doing and all the impact that you make it, but in a super good mood, not like fear that everyone don't trust you. It's more like just a small, slowly, with a big change, with small changes, sorry, and that's how it works. So it's completely different. I don't need to sell it every day.
Was at Celonis a moment when it became clear that design system is no longer like a nice to have, but actually critical part of scaling, and then they put more resources in? Because you mentioned in the start that you started as 5 people team, but now it's already almost 15 people.
Yeah, I think I would say it at the end when I just leave it company. I think the last year, that would be the year that they say that's completely needed, and not only a design system. They need like more people that work there. So the good thing that we have it is the engineer team that work here on Spain. They have a really good mindset about how useful is the design system. So they support a lot and make a lot of effort to visualize what we are doing by collaborating, by give us their engineer resources, because there are some times that we make a deliver and our engineer resources couldn't support. So they just offer like for freedom, hey, just come with us and then we will try to contribute with the components that your engineer team couldn't cover right now. So I think the last year was the most important to see that impact. When you work on that bigger amount of company where they have teams on United States, on Greece, on like in every part of the world, there are people working. It's really hard to see their values and their impact. So I think I make a little bit of that changes to visualize what we are making and talking to everyone like, hey, you know what is Salonis and what we are making and all the things. This is the small changes that you are talking with people. It's what makes like the big impact. So you need to be like a little bit of social and talk to everyone about what you are doing instead of your coffee chats to everyone. You know who I am? I'm making that one. Ah, you are making that? Yeah, it's a design system. Ah, that's great because maybe I need your help. So in every event or something that the company makes, I just literally present myself, hey, that's what we are making. So that kind of noise, then just the people come and say, hey, they are making that one. Maybe we can just ask for some resources or make more visibility. So these small things make an impact, and people just taking care more about the design system.
Was there anything else that you did inside the company? I agree that you have to sell I mean, not just yourself, actually, the whole design system work. But did you have any office hours? Did you send newsletters, internal newsletters about your work? Any tips on this?
Yes, that's a super good point. One of the things that we started making is just to have like a release channel that's called Design System Release. So everyone just join it there and we just summarize the things. Always use like the same structure. Like anybody can comment there. So you can just spread that kind of summary. But it's a summary for people that consume design system, like designers or engineers, other stakeholders that just wanted to be aware like why that button or color are changed. So here I can just summary all that decisions. So we try to make this one every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on how many amount of changes there is. And that works really, really nice. The problem of the newsletter on that big companies, not maybe on a little bit smaller ones, is that they receive it a lot of newsletters, but a lot of with data, with cybersecurity, with a lot of context. So we try to make something like more visually. I just added like small videos for 30 seconds. It's worked like really well. It's like a small, I would say, TikTok or Instagram Reels that you just offer visually and just sharing like this how the new component works, or something like super short that people are super grateful. And I always send that message on Mondays at 9 a.m. because when you started on Mondays, you just see your emails. There's a lot of emails inside and you just feel like oh my God, another Monday that I need to read all that stuff. But then you receive that fancy Slack message with images and videos and just sharing like how the impact from other product designers are just reflected on the design system, like visually. And people are super happy to receive this kind of thing. So we try to make it like every Monday instead of Friday because it's not working. People don't wanted to see that thing. They just wanted to start the weekend. But this is small piece of information people feel like super, yeah, they appreciate a lot. So the Slack message works really, really well, the bigger one.
What were your adoption strategies when you finished with the UI kit, and also here, how do you share those, and also that people start working on the UI kit with the UI kit?
We started making like a lot of testing. First, I just put like in a slot so people can just grab time. That was not working. Then we started to say, okay, we just want to make like one event from that is called design system, so you can just go there and see the releases. Spoiler, that's gonna be not working again. So one thing that we just see is like people have a lot of meetings, so I can't block their time for announcements. So one of the things that's worked like the best is there is a meeting every Friday where it's all the designers over there, like 40 designers in the same meeting, and we just communicate like the new updates from the company, from changes from the product, like something like super short. And I just ask them to block it there like 10 minutes only for design system updates. So I just prepare like a small presentation with 5 slides depending on how many updates there is, and try to just explain this is how it looks before, this is how it looks after, what is the status. It's only on design, it's implemented, and small videos. And after that meeting they just receive in a Slack message with all the summary of things, with a small video of 30 seconds explaining like how to consume the component, how to find the documentation, and everything. It's summarized there. So this works really nice. It's super transparency. Then they can just take a look on the changelog on Supernova if they are missing something. But this meeting, that was like super useful. And regarding like the last question that I was thinking, for the big impact, one of the things that we make it is there is one meeting that they make it every 1 month, or there was another one every half of a year, and then one like yearly. So everyone just joined it there. There were more like 2,000 people on that meeting. That was crazy. And I just asked them for 10 minutes. Just give me like 10 minutes to explain everyone which is design system. And there was like a before and after this meeting, because more people that didn't notice that there is this Slack message and all that information start knowing what is a design system. So if you have like the possibility to share something in this big announcement, something like visually, because at the end everyone is just talking there about data, about KPIs, about metrics, about how the company goes and all the stuff. But if you share something like visually, people just pay attention there. Like something like, hey, that was our product before, this is our product after, we just changed the colors and typography, and everyone is like, oh, that's super cool. Like now everything looks better because you just make like these small changes. So that was amazing to be part of that bigger event.
What signals tell you that it's time to introduce a new component or retire an old one, or rethink a decision that was already made before? Because this is also then part of this communication, what changed, and people get more excited.
So you mentioned like how I communicate that stuff.
Yeah, how do you decide it's time to introduce a new component or retire an old one?
It's depending of how the context is. For example, if it's a component that can't growing up for engineer legacy or for Figma legacy, I think it's a time to kind of update. But for example, if I didn't have that time, I can just offer this look and feel like quickly and start making other things. It's depending of how many time you have it to make that things right now, or if you wanted to wait it and to construct everything like perfectly and from scratch. So first I try to not create it everything from scratch again if it's not needed. If you don't need like another variant, just add it. If you need like to change all that color for a new one and it's going to be implemented, just change it if it will not be breaking changes. But then when it will be a breaking changes, then it's the time to make this update and just to announce. And I always put on the message like, hey, if you are on the last time of delivery to make an update on your component, just raise them and then just update your library, because I know that there are designers that literally don't have time that week to make the update. So feel free to make it, but only tell your engineer that this component will look different because it was implemented on engineer side. So just transparency, communication, and it's gonna be work.
Do you also allow other people to contribute to design system, or do you have any processes around that?
Yeah, totally. I was open to everyone to contribute. Like on my previous company and my actual company, everyone is open to contribute. And there's always people that really love to contribute. And you can detect it like the minute one that you just join it on the company, that people just text you like, hey, I'm super happy that we have a design system. I have a lot of ideas to make changes. I just see a lot of components that can be updated, a lot of things that are not on sync, and they just literally come to you and be super open, like, and you just grab that information and put it in some space. For example, at the beginning, I just have like a big fig jam with all the questions of designers, and then I just organize that information visually regarding components, regarding patterns. And then when I start like working on all that stuff, I just create tickets with all the things. Just when I'm just joining the company, then I just create tickets with all the things that they are telling me and try to organize in a way that they can see that I'm tackling these things, so they can feel like, hey, I'm contribute on that. So I always, when I create something, say, hey, thanks to that contribution for that person, because right now that component looks like that. So just give the not the responsibility, but the ownership to that people that contribute. So people are feeling like super happy to see like, hey, this is my contribution. I make that change. Because at the end, if I didn't receive that information, I will not notice that it's not on sync, or this is not working for any reason. So your users are designers and engineers. So I'm always open to people to contribute. So right now, for example, we have a Slack channel, so people can just go in there and ask their questions and contribute, and I just grab all that information and create the Jira tickets. But it's always like not everyone wants to contribute, but there is like a lot of people that want it, so I just give that freedom and space and channels to people to do it.
Okay, so you mentioned Jira tickets. How does it look like if, so in the current company, you said that you have developers that also help build the design system, but then how do you share the work to developers? Is there like a bunch of Jira tickets and they just take it when they can? Or do you have a special OKRs for design system or
So
goals?
it was, yeah. We have like every quarter we just define like what we want to like to working. So if there are like 1,000 of tickets, I just prioritize them in base of what it's on our roadmap. So if this quarter we just wanted to synchronize components and with Figma and code, I just grab that tickets. If there's something more that I can grab because it's short to implement, I will make it. Or if it's something that is super urgent, of course, I will grab them. But when I started to make that changes, first I have like a talk with engineers to ask them like, I can implement it on that way, or there is something that I can do it, how I can just grab that information to start to creating that new component or that new token. So I just have that first talk with them. Then I just grab it. I construct the component or the token or whatever I just needed. And then in the next sprint, I just talk with them and say, I have that tickets. So how you can just organize to grab them a little bit from my side, and the others that you have it on your side that I was pending or there was supporting from other things that need to be done. So we just organize and filter them like this need to be implemented that week because it's super urgent. So we just grab a couple of them and establish like how many time it's going to be take for you to make that tickets. And on that week we have meetings to align if there is something concerns that was not clear on the ticket. But I try to fulfill all that tickets before, so they just need to take a look a little bit and ask me all the questions that they have it.
Do you also add time estimates?
Yeah, totally. For mine and for theirs, I will say they added because I didn't know like how many time it would take the task, or if there is something that they couldn't do it and they need to invest more time. But yes, this is something that I started to make it, I will say, on that new company, because they usually just pay a lot of attention on the time. So I really like it because before I didn't make it. So I just take a look on the tickets and estimate approach how will be the time that I will take it. But right now I'm more conscient about how all the tasks take me to make something. But I always search, for example, time every week for things that are popping up. So there's a lot of things. In compare, for example, from Thelonis on a startup, there are a lot of things that need to be done like super quick. So I estimate like 30% of my time on the week, it's only for supporting designers or reviewing designs that are like literally they going to be implemented, and they didn't have that time to review for any reasons. So I just reserved that time for that, to give them like the support that they have it or they need it for these short time reviews.
Are you also using design tokens here in the new company? Or you're
Yeah,
just
I
in the
started.
phase of implementing them?
No, I'm on both right now. So they have it, the tokens. They are using, for example, this was the first time that I'm using Libre. They are using Mountain Libre. So there are a lot of restrictions regarding namings, regarding structure, about how to implement it and all the stuff. So that was something new because I always start the construction from namings from scratch. There was not any structure before. So here I just need to respect some guidelines. So they take me like more time to construct the tokens based on a structure that construct them from scratch. Because from scratch is like, okay, how the designer use it, how it's implemented so I can name it properly. But right now there's a lot of primitives that couldn't be renamed, a lot of tokens that are constructed that speed the work, but maybe I didn't use it if I created from scratch. So I just implemented, for example, right now, the first one, that is the typography tokens by using Supernova, because we just get it a couple of weeks before. And they works really, really nice. So I'm on the facing construct like colors, spacing, and this stuff. But I'm started from something like simple that cost like a lot of efforts and problems, because they didn't have it properly tokens and variants on Figma, so designers don't know which size use it, which is the architecture. So just changing like this small piece of tokens, there is a big impact, because most of the things are data, are text. So yeah, there was a big thing that I make it.
So you mentioned you have to follow some structure, but why? So then you're now creating a new primitive tokens.
So we are consuming like for delivery from Maintain. It's kind of like Tiger One is just a basic one tokens from that library. So the primitives I couldn't rename it. So for example, instead of
Ah,
using,
okay.
I don't know,
Uh-huh.
yeah, like red 100, 200, that it's more
Mm-hmm.
logically, so you can put something in the middle. Right now they are named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the case that I wanted to
Uh-huh.
add something in the middle, I couldn't. So there is a lot of restrictions that I have it for create that system. So there are always pros and cons, because they needed to have a library to create the startup, because if not they couldn't speed the work. There are a lot of components that we didn't have it on the library, but they have it on engineers, so they can start using them quickly. But regarding tokens, it's a little bit painful, because there is some restrictions on primitives. So I need to create that semantic layer with more freedom, because they can just just connect them from the primitives. But the primitives sometimes it's a little bit painful regarding that, because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't rename them or creating. Sometimes I couldn't create some tokens too, and they need to fake it. So, for example, for typography, there was sizes that I couldn't create it, because there's no way to implement it on the Mantai library. So they need to implement it on their base. So there's like things that I need just all the time to pay attention and literally study the library from Montaigne. I need to learn all that restrictions, what I can do it, what I can't, and all the things. And before I didn't make that one. So that was a hard to start it and read everything like pixel perfect, like all the information, because if not, I couldn't start creating nothing from scratch.
Are you using Token Studio for this?
No, for now we are just using Supernova to synchronize Figma with engineers.
So you're adding all the information there and then syncing to Figma and to the code side.
Yes, that was complex. I need to just sit down with the engineers, because I wanted to learn how they synchronize like Montan with Supernova, Figma, and understand how all that ecosystem works. Because before it was only like creating from Figma and just pushing it literally on engineer resource. But right now we have that external library that they need to connect it, the primitives with the semantic token layers, and everything works together. So yeah, that's super interesting how they make that stuff.
Would you say it's easier also for developers because you have everything there, and then even when you add documentation, it's still in the same place. They don't need to go to Figma, for example.
Totally. There's like a big curve, for example, for Supernova, we have it the trial right now. So that's one thing that I need to make it like an MVP to take it like for more time than only 1 month, or I think we have 3 months or something like this. So I need to start creating value for the first time. And the first thing that I just focus it's on tokens, because designers don't know how to use the primitive, because they don't have it a semantic layer. So all the things that I've just involved at that time, it's only on tokens to share that value. But there was a lot of concerns. There are people that didn't know Supernova, that they thinking that it's the same as a storybook. And it's like, no, they are completely opposite. We continue having like a storybook, but now we have a single source of truth. So all the time I just need to spread and explain everyone, which is like the real usage of storybook, Supernova, sorry, because they didn't have it nothing like this one before. So they are kind of like, we have a place to consult that information. So that's super great. But I need to feed a lot of information in short time to share that value too.
So you're not using Storybook anymore. You're pushing everything there, or you're still using Storybook and then add stories to the Supernova?
Yes. Exactly. We are continue using both, because at the end, the storybook have like a lot of things that Supernova didn't provide. And I don't think they are like the same tool. There are like different tools that are constructed for making different things. In the case that you don't have one, you can use the other one, but it's not like Figma and Sketch. They have like different functionalities, and a storybook works really nice for testing, to test accessibility, to see how the components look like before implement. So I will continue have both tools at the same time.
Do you use any kind of automation or AI tools?
I wanted. That's like the next step, because we are on super like beginner, I will say, step. But I wanted to have something that I don't know if Supernova have it right now, but it's I would love to have kind of automations on releases. Because right now I need to publish everything on Figma. I need to publish everything on Slack. Then I need to publish on Supernova. So there's a lot of things that I can just make it once and just publish. Of course, I will say the same language that I communicate on Slack is not the same that I put it on a release. It's more like super short, but there should be like a way that I can just automatize all the things. But I didn't go that deeply on that side, but I wanted to, totally.
So not even for content or anything else, you're not using anything.
For content, yes, 100%. I'm super like basic on EA stuff, but I use cloud. I use ChatGPT a lot for documentation, for answer emails, for answer feedback, for everything. I receive like a lot of big amount of paragraph from designers for asking me questions. So literally, I just read like super quick and say, okay, I wanted to that you answer with that solution. That's the problem. Just answer. So I didn't like lost that time like before to, okay, based on what you say me, I think that it's just adding like two tips and then just answer that message based on that information. So my work literally speed off with that one. More than documentation, I will say like answer message or emails that before I take it like a lot of time. Right now I take it like the half of the time.
Yeah, it's very helpful. But how do you see design systems heading? Where do you see them heading in the next few years? Or what would you like to have, if you have a magic wand and you can do anything? You mentioned automation, but this is just one little part.
Yeah, automation is one of them, totally. But I would love to not using a library for making the things, because at the beginning I know that it's have like a lot of impact on the company, but there's a lot of restrictions that at the end I take more time on thinking about how can I do that one with that restrictions, instead of saying like how can I create that one, and it will be like super fast if I can create it from scratch, or to having like other system. But right now I'm super unsure on a system, super blocked. So at the end it's take more time to adapt on that system instead of creating something from scratch. So I see in 3 years that we will not have a library, that we have our system, and this will speed a lot the work. Right now not, because we didn't have like, I will say, this base for start to making that one, or the resources, I will say. But I see in 3 years that we can just start making a lot of things, and we have a person that animate a lot of components and animation. So I will love that they can animate the components, and we can just create tokens for animations and this stuff, because I didn't have it that person that is working 24 hours only on animation. That's super good that we can just working together and create some tokens on based on that.
Do you also measure design system, or do you have some kind of surveys that you see that you're doing good? What's the response from users of the design system, etc.?
Yeah, today, right now, for example, as I have just started, what I make it, it's kind of It's more manual work. I didn't have like a tool right now because I'm on this starting phase, just asking for resources that can support me to give that impact on a company. But I just recollect a lot of things regarding, for example, one of the things that we make it in a short term is they wanted to change the look and feel of the product literally in 2 months. They just wanted to just tell me like, Marta, everything looks blue and everything is not like branding and that stuff. So what I make it is just choose 15 components that is used in the most of the components that we have it on the system, and change it literally the look and feel, only like the base color using like the primary one, and only that one. It's something that I can share and say, this is how the product looks like the first month that I just started, and the second month we change it like the entire look and feel. So I'm starting to make something manually, but it's kind of report. So every time that I make like a small impact regarding like the product, I just make like an image before and image after, and this is time estimated that we do that, so I can win more time to make the things that are more harder. Like for example, for tokens, it's really hard like to invest on what are the restrictions of the system, the namings and this stuff. So what I'm making is, I will just give you that one, so you think that I make like a big impact on the product, but at the same time I just win in time to invest it on making things that will have a big impact on the future, because they wanted to have a different theming and this stuff. So I couldn't work on that if I didn't give them something smaller. So I just kind of make off screenshots of these small impacts and just kind of make a report. When someone just asks me like, what are the things that you are making, I have everything noted down. So I don't need to waste the time to recover all that information. Other things are reported that we make it. We are only 5 designers, so this is not a lot of information, but we have 18 engineers working on that. So send them like forms and this stuff. They're working a lot, like super good. We just asking like super openly what they are thinking about design system, like when I'm started, and what they are thinking right now when some colors are changed, that they have a support, that they have a single source of truth. And the answer before I'm started and the answers right now, they just sharing like we make a big impact and small changes. So the rate are just growing up regarding like we have a design system that make the things that make an impact. That things that are like, maybe we just think like, no, it's stupid just to make like a form and it's not useful. If you have people that want it right now using them, they have like a lot of impact. But it's working in small companies, and say, for example, on big companies that we have it before, maybe forms was not like the best because they have a lot of things to do it, a lot of emails. You are not that approach to the team like I am right now, only with 5 people. You can ask them, hey, are you just feeling like the form? But there are like different ways to make it when you are on a big company, for sure.
So what would be one piece of advice that you would share with listeners when who work on design systems, or they want to start working on design system? What's the most important thing, or the thing that you missed and you wouldn't miss it again?
Totally. Trust on yourself, I think, is one of the biggest things that I learned. When you don't trust or any decision that you make it, where you are not like, yes, like you think that the decision is super important and you own it and it's how it needs to be done, people just smell it that you are not secure, and they will come to you with asking a lot of questions like, are you sure? But there's a lot of way to make that. Why you didn't choose that option? And you need to be super clear. You need to know how many options there are and be super sure that this option will be the best. Instead, if it's not the best on the future, because a lot of things can happen, you need to sell it super well. Like, this is the perfect solution for that problem, and that's it. And if you didn't make it on that, everyone will asking you, and you will just asking yourself like, you are doing this one good or not, or yeah, don't think it, just project it that you know what you are doing, instead if you don't, because that's how it works. A lot of things you make it, you didn't know how it's going to be implemented or how will be the problems on the future, or if this naming will scale, but you need to be sure when you communicate all the things. So communication and trust on yourself on every decision that you do.
Okay. So what would you say, I mean, what's your favorite thing to do when you're not in design systems?
Wow, I'm super like freaking on design system. I spend like a lot of time making events and spread where I'm learning, but I really like it to ride my motorbike. It's like super small one, and just make like a ride on the mountains and stay time on the nature. That's something that I didn't make like 2 years ago. And sometimes when we are like super just go there, stay there, don't make nothing, don't take a look on your phone, just stay on nature. It's something that just make you feel so much better. So I try to make this one the most thing that I can. Just do it every weekend. Just a little bit of your time to just stay alone with yourself and under the sun if it's possible, and just charge your body.
Spain has a lot of sun, so that's not a problem. Where do you go outside of Madrid? I mean, to the mountains. What's your favorite region or
Yeah, there's
place?
Yeah, Guadalajara is super near from Madrid. It's only like I would say less than an hour on motorbike. So I always like to go there. And on summers I have the opportunity because I work remotely to grab my motorbike and go to Mallorca. So I can go like near the sea and just stay there the entire summer. I always make that one. Just grab them 3 months on Mallorca in summer and then just coming back here again.
Oh, nice. Madrid can be really hot in the summer, right? Too
That's what I
hot.
just too hot. I just go outside. It's
It's
impossible.
perfect in the spring, but yeah, summer can be quite too
Hard.
much. So cool. Also, yeah, the last question, you mentioned that you're teaching. So where can people find your courses, or you can share the link and I will also post it under the YouTube channel. But yeah, what are you teaching? Design tokens, design systems in general.
Yeah, I'm started like teaching more of design systems. There is a course from product designers, so there is a small module from teaching design system to product designers and leads and managers. So there's a kind of different roles that need to understand what is a design system. That I make it in the Hero Camp, that is an online school, and the other one that I'm teaching is more tokens, how to apply tokens, and all the stuff that it's on Mr. Marshall that I just started this year, and that's really good because I really like it. Not only see people once, so on that course I have the opportunity to see them like more than one time, and this is super cool to see how their just mind just make that click. I know that in the first class it's super hard because it's like, what is tokens, where it's variables, where is that one, how it's gonna be implemented, everyone have a lot of questions, but in the third class people just start making like that click, and I love it to see that their phrases understand tokens and variables
Yeah, it's really cool. And then they also help themselves.
a lot.
And in the end, this energy is really awesome.
Totally. 100.
Marta, thank you so much for taking the time and explaining everything.
Thank you, you too. That was a pleasure.